Okay. I think one of the biggest problems in America is something that, well, it's that we're bad at turning children into adults. And I've been thinking about this topic recently because I just turned 30, and I don't really like, in terms of my philosophy of how I would make content, I like being more local, and I think talking about ideas and philosophies is philosophical and it's very broad. I actually like being more niche. Like I live in Massachusetts, for example, and I like talking about things locally, but I want to talk about this idea of identifying as an adult and what's happened to me recently regarding that. And I want to say this. I think identifying as an adult is actually a moral responsibility. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's good for everyone to identify as an adult as soon as we can, I might even argue. Here's why. Here's my first point. Identity shapes behavior. Identity is one of the strongest forces in psychology. We act consistently with who we see ourselves as. For example, and I want to say this, and the habits that we have shape our identity. And once we have an identity, it will then shape more habits. So there's a little bit of like a chicken and egg thing, but I would argue to change your identity, you need to change your habits. And then once your identity's changed, you will also change your habits in like a feedback loop. It will feed itself. And there's like momentum towards it, if I had to put it that way. What happens if someone doesn't identify as an adult? Imagine if you're 40 years old and you don't identify as an adult. You identify as a child. That could be useful in certain things, like to be youthful and fun and like not take life so seriously. I think there's merit in that, and maybe there might be categories for how we do this. But there's also the idea of becoming an adult, and I think what an adult means the way I define it is worth discussing. So how would I define it as an adult? I don't think it's by age. I think an adult takes responsibility, accepts consequences, maybe even creates value, ultimately serves other people. Like a parent is an adult, I would say, or they should be. And the parent is serving the child and showing what leadership is. And leaders serve others. And we like people that help others. It's morally right, I would say. And I think that's in the adult category, because I think children need provision and they need to be given things so they can grow, right? So I see something as the adult in nature serves other people. And I would argue if this, and maybe my word's wrong, but I think an adult is someone that people can depend upon. And just because you're a certain age, it has nothing to do with age. It has to do with something else, I would say. And like let's look at how the state approaches these things. We have 18 years old, we can vote. All right? 21 years old, we can drink if you're in America. That's different across the world. 26 years old, we need our own health insurance. We can't be on our parents' health insurance, which is very interesting because that is political and that shapes society. I'll get into that. So again, and I actually transitioned without saying it, but my real point is there's a difference in childhood versus adulthood. Children receive, depend, they're protected. They avoid responsibility. Think about a parent giving a child chores. They have to be given that and told that. That's the argument between children and adults. They don't want to do that. Do your homework, clean your room, wash the dishes, cut the grass, right? So the adult is giving, building, protecting, and teaching them what's right. And I think the adult got there and didn't die evolutionarily, if I had to put it, because they understood life's not about them. If they got to survive, they got to get things done. They got to, there's a wisdom to it. This guy's older. He's been there before, but he's helping the next one. The child is taking the benefit from the adult, and ideally, we got to help that child. It's purely selfless to help that child, and then they come up. Anyways, so I want to talk about my next point, which has to do with rites of passage. What is a rite of passage? A rite of passage is it's almost like a cultural thing. Maybe not even cultural. It's like a ceremony to me, or something that's done, a tough task that transitions the kid to an adult. And we see societies that like have this as rituals. Rite, ritual. I wonder if there's any connection in the word rite and ritual, because they're spelled the same. But they literally like systematically say, hey, this is how we're doing it. They got to a point where they're like, we need this so much. Like the society said that. Like I know certain like African tribes, they have like these hunting ceremonies that are challenges. I forget what they are, but it seems they say to the kid, you're going to do this. And from my memory, it was like a painful experience that I didn't really want to do, right? But on the other side of that, they gain respect from the men and the adults in the village, and they become an adult. So it seems like someone has thought about this point I'm talking about, to the point where they say, we need everyone to do this, and we need to systematize it so that we can grow as a culture and a nation, and whatever that nation was. I'm thinking of bar mitzvahs too with Jews, right? They become a kid. At 13, they're a kid, and then they become an adult. And that implication too, and I know that religion is, there's a moral responsibility for sin is what they do. And that's the rite of passage, to become an adult. They're literally recognized as an adult, and that adult has this form of sin. Like they can have sin now, because the idea is if a child dies, maybe they, did they have sin? Did they go to heaven or hell or whatever? I don't know. But I feel like it's in line with that. I don't know enough about that. I'm just kind of going off. But we don't have a rite of passage in America. We don't have any clear psychological transition anymore. Look at what I just said with health insurance. That might be a rite of passage. We might, I think in America what they're trying to do is make it home ownership. Some people say, when I own a home, oh, now I'm an adult, right? Which I don't think is a good way to define an adult. I think there's a lot that goes into that. And I just don't think we have one. And I just think the idea of, we keep kids in college until they're 22, and they're partying and networking, and then they come out with a useless degree, and then they're not really valuable in the workforce, so they can't really provide for themselves. Or maybe they do, but like college might be a rite of passage is my point. Like home ownership might be a rite of passage. But for me, it was starting a business. That was like me. That's when I changed, because I had to get things done. And that's my next point. What was my rite of passage? Well, and I don't even know if that matters too much, but I really feel I went through a rite of passage when I started my business. And I got fired from my job, and I was playing in a band. I still do, but a different band. And the fear I had of not getting a paycheck anymore, and I don't know what it was, but I remember I was like in a grocery store, and I was working for a year trying to start my business, and I was worried about buying groceries. And I was like, I don't even think I can afford sardines right now. Like, I was scared to spend money, and I'm usually pretty cheap, but frugal is a better word. But I it was tough. And what ended up happening was once I got my business going and I was really seeing some success with it, my confidence changed, right? And I know I did something hard. I was doing 12-hour days constantly, failing. And the truth was that the only proof I had of being valuable and succeeding was if a paycheck came. So it was very clear as day. I wasn't getting paid because I wasn't good at what I did. I had to learn for a year how to do what I do. I buy houses now. And I had to fail on every appointment, every marketing call. And it built a character in me. And then by learning, I ended up getting paychecks, and it made me valuable, but it also made me dependable. And what I had to do was, like, I would learn things like, I'm going to wrap this up. I would learn things like show up on time, let's just say. Because if I was late, then they wouldn't sell their house to me, let's just say. And then I wouldn't get paid. And I had to be like, oh, crap, I should probably show up on time. And then I have to do the work. I have to start from scratch, start over, find another person to get the appointment with, and then show up on time, right? And I just multiplied that by 100 different lessons. And then finally I started making money. I'm going to go into modern society. We depend on our parents longer. College delays us from financial independence. We're delaying careers, marriage, and then family formation. Are some of our institutions unintentionally delaying psychological adulthood? Why does this matter morally? If identity influences behavior and adult identity encourages responsibility, then encouraging adult identity benefits everyone, because responsible adults raise family, build businesses, and business have to help other people. You can't be in business and not help. You'll be found out. Maybe my beliefs about business are wrong. I don't know. You have to keep promises, and you have to mentor others, and you have to strengthen communities as an adult. What is your rite of passage? At what moment did you stop thinking like an adult and start thinking like a child? Stop thinking like a child and start thinking like an adult. My bad. We're getting older. Are we turning into adults? Children ask, who's going to take care of me? Adults ask, who can I take care of? I think that's a good thing. I think that's right. And I think if we don't do that, we're doing something wrong. Anyways, let me know what you think. But hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you.